Have you ever wondered why life exists on Earth, but not on other planets? Today, we're gonna break down life on Earth and ecosystems, and not just what they are, but why they work the way they do. To do this, let's first draw some basics. So let's draw like an animal. So let's just say this is our cow, whatever. This is our lovely animal. And then we're just gonna have some greenery with some plants. Just like that, lovely plants. And then we're also gonna have our beautiful sun, bright as ever. And then some water. And so ecology is the study of how living things interact with each other and with their environment. But why does this matter? Because no organism can survive alone. So every living thing, so let's just draw another animal. Every living thing depends on food. So food, water. It depends on shelter, a nice home, shelter, and other organisms. And without these interactions, life would essentially collapse. So let's go back up to our Earth, and then let's just let's just pretend this is Mars, right? This is Mars. So as far as we know, Earth is the only planet that can support life. But why? Because Earth has the perfect combination of temperature, water, atmosphere, and nutrients. If any of these are off by even a little bit, life struggles or disappears. Now let's draw a forest. So let's just have some trees. Let's just say this is the forest, right? Amazing trees. We just have more. This is our forest, let's say, for now. I know my trees are great. And then this would be the ocean. A habitat is the place where a living thing essentially lives. So why is habitat important? Because it provides everything an organism needs to survive. An example, a fish in a forest dies because it has no water, and fish need water to breathe. And a deer in the ocean also dies because it can't breathe underwater. It needs air. It's not like a fish. So habitat essentially is like survival conditions. And so all life, let's just remove this stuff. And so all life exists in something called the biosphere. The biosphere depends on three other spheres. Those spheres being first atmosphere, the atmosphere. So the atmosphere is like a layer of gases around Earth. And so why is this important? Because it contains oxygen. And we breathe oxygen. We need oxygen to breathe. And as well as it traps heat from the sun. So when it comes back, it traps heat so Earth doesn't freeze, we don't freeze to death. And it blocks UV radiation. So sometimes it blocks UV radiation, which protects life. Without it, Earth would be freezing and dangerous. Now let's talk about the lithosphere. So let's first draw some soil, some rocks. Let's pretend these are rocks. And some roots. Let's say these are like roots of like a tree or something. And so the lithosphere is the solid earth, rocks and soil, right? It's beneath here. And so why does it matter? Plants grow in soil. And soil contains nutrients, and animals depend on plants. So if there's no soil, that means there's no plants, which in turn means there's no food, and thus ecosystem collapse. Next, we have the sphere of water, aka the hydrosphere. And so this is all water on Earth. All this water, it's all water on Earth. So oceans, rivers, clouds. And so why is water critical? So cells need water to function, and it transports nutrients and it regulates temperature. Essentially, if there's no water, there would be no life. And then lastly, we have the sphere of essentially all spheres called the biosphere. And so this is where all living things exist. It includes the atmosphere, the lithosphere, the hydrosphere, and it depends on all other spheres working together. Now let's go back to our forest here. So let's just get rid of our oceans and focus on our forest. An ecosystem is all the living and non-living things interacting in one place. Why is interaction key? Because plants need sunlight and water. Animals need plants or other animals. Decomposers recycle nutrients. Everything is connected. Now for here, let's split the screen. And here we'll have biotic. And here we'll have abiotic. Alright, so biotic essentially means living things. So for example, living things could be such as plants. They could also be, sorry for my horrible drawing of animals, but they could also be animals. They could also be fungi, as well as bacteria. You know, little bacteria. So all of these are biotic, and there's much more biotic things, just essentially anything that's living. And so why is this important? It's because they drive the ecosystem, energy flow, food chains, etc. And now abiotic. Abiotic means non-living things. So for example, the sun, it's abiotic because there's no life in the sun, as well as temperature. Temperature is abiotic because essentially it's like not living. Temperature is not living. Water can also be abiotic. Air can also be abiotic. And so why is abiotic things important? This is because they control how living things survive. For example, if it's too cold, organisms die. If there's no sunlight, plants can't photosynthesize. And so all this means ecosystems collapse. So biotic and abiotic both depend on each other. Now let's talk about energy flow. For this, let's draw a sun. Let's draw a nice plant. And then let's draw our animal. Boom. And then let's draw like a decomposer. Let's just go with the bacteria. And so every ecosystem depends on energy from the sun. And so let's just have this plant absorbing all of that sunlight, you know? Producers make their own food using sunlight. And this is important because they're the base of all food chains. Plants are the base of all food chains. Without them, no energy enters the ecosystem. Now, consumers. So consumers eat the plants. And there's different types of animals, like herbivores, which only eat plants, omnivores, which eat both animals and plants, and carnivores, which only eat plants. And so they transfer energy through the ecosystem. And now decomposers, their turn. And so they break down dead matter. And this is essential because without decomposers, dead things just stack on top of each other, just pile up, and nutrients don't return to the soil, right? They don't return to the soil. And plants then unfortunately can't grow if there's no nutrients in the soil. And so ecosystems collapse. So as you can see, the main theme here is that everything works together to create an ecosystem. And even if one thing, abiotic, abiotic or biotic, or any like consumer, plants, if the sun, air, anything, if even one thing is taken out of an ecosystem usually collapses. Now, let's talk about the levels of organization. For this, let's just draw a pyramid. And so, first, we got individual, right? So, let's just have like an animal. That's an individual. That's one organism. Then, after that, we have population. So a group of the same species, essentially. So like we have one cow here, let's just say, and then another one. So just essentially a group of the same species. So this is important because they can reproduce and survive together. After that, we have community. So multiple species together. So this could be like a cow, multiple cows, right? Let's draw another cow, baby cow, whatever. Multiple cows living together. And then let's just draw like a bird, let's say. We have a bird. And then maybe like another bird, sure. And so there are multiple species living together. And so this is important because species depend on each other. Food, shelter, etc. After that, we have biome. So let's just draw like a desert, right? Let's pretend this is a desert. And so a biome is essentially a large area with similar climate. It determines what plants grow and what animals survive. Now let's talk about ecosystem size. So let's draw here a tiny pond versus this huge ocean, right? Like, wow, that's crazy. And so ecosystems can be small or huge because ecosystems exist anywhere interactions happen. Like a rotting log, let's say. So if there's like a log and it's like rotting, right? A rotting log. And so it's like a tiny ecosystem. Like it has like decomposers like bacteria, all that stuff, abiotic and biotic interactions happening. And then as well as the ocean, which is a massive ecosystem of fish, different species, and then we have kelp, plants, other stuff. So this is a massive ecosystem. An ecosystem can even happen in a droplet of water. Right, like tiny bacteria, all this stuff, maybe some particles, dust, all this in a drop of water can also exist in ecosystem. It's essentially anywhere where interactions happen. Now let's talk about sustainability. I've mentioned this before, but let's mention it again. Sustainability means an ecosystem can maintain balance over time. And why is balance important? Because ecosystems are very fragile. If you remove one species from an ecosystem, the food chain breaks. Because here we have like one, we go, he eats that, and then he eats this guy, right? If we remove one, then this guy can't eat this guy anymore because he's not there. and so he dies because he dies of starvation. This guy, oh shoot, this guy can't eat this guy because he died of starvation, so he'll also die of starvation, and then everything collapses. So even if one species is taken out of an ecosystem, a food chain breaks. And if you change temperatures, species may die because some are adapted to higher temperatures, or sometimes in ecosystems like polar bears, right? Polar bears, they usually hunt on ice. And if you change the temperature by increasing it, then all that ice will essentially like melt and disappear, and there'll only be water. And polar bears aren't like fish. They're not only suited for hunting in water. They have to hunt on ice as well. So they would also die. So let's go deeper. So let's draw a rainforest, right? Let's just pretend this is a massive rainforest. Amazing, right? And ecosystems in places like forest struggle. Why? Because trees are cut. Animals lose their habitat because birds and other species are living inside trees and leaves, and that means there's less plants, which means less oxygen and food because animals eat those plants and we breathe oxygen, and those plants give out oxygen. And soil erodes because there's less nutrients in food, and decomposers can't decompose species, and so plants can't grow back. And so why does that matter? Because it creates a chain reaction. Fewer species means unstable ecosystem, means a possible collapse. So remember, ecosystems are not just a collection of things. They are systems of relationships. And if one part changes, everything else is affected. Everything is intertwined. Everything is connected. If you take one thing out, everything will collapse. This is life on Earth and ecosystems. Grade 9 IB Buddy Science. And I'll see you guys today, tomorrow, tonight. I don't know. See ya.